what is your Tinder horror story? Not me, but I worked as a bartender for a while and heard a lot of horror stories secondhand. This one girl who was a regular came in and told me about an awful Tinder date she had. Not sure of the specifics, but it was not bad enough for her to not bring him home afterward. He leaves the next morning, she brushes it off as a one-night stand, and a few days later, her debit card gets declined. Odd, since she is a bartender herself at a fairly busy place in our city and is good about saving and usually flush with cash. She goes to check her debit card, turns out there were a bunch of charges at Best Buy, Grubhub, and a bunch of other stuff. Curious, she checks her credit card too. There she found a bunch of charges for streaming services. Netflix, Hulu, Sling, everything. She goes to confront the guy and finds out he deleted his profile. But she remembers a friend they had in common on Facebook. She reaches out to the mutual friend to try and track him down, and it turns out he did the exact same thing to that mutual friend. Not sure what the outcome was, but she was out for blood after a mediocre hookup turned into a serious case of identity theft. I went on a date with this guy who I did not really have anything in common with, but thought I would give him a shot anyway. We met up at a bar and he had already pounded 2 pitchers of beer but was completely sober, at least from what I could tell. We hung out, talked, and although he seemed nice enough, I was not quite feeling it. I wanted to leave, but he convinced me to go to another bar to get one last drink. Seeing as it was only about 8 p.m., I agreed to one more drink. We were sitting at the bar and a couple was making out next to us. He looked at me and asked what I thought people in the bar would do if he and I started making out. I knew where this was going. I tried to laugh and make some joke about no one paying attention. He then insisted that we should make out. I nervously laughed and told him that was not a very good idea and excused myself to the restroom. I came back to the seat and he had a shot waiting for me and insisted I drink it. No shot for him, just me. I declined and he got really upset and said he was ready to go. At that point in the evening, he had consumed 2 pitchers of beer, 4 margaritas, and 2 more pints, yet displayed no sign of being intoxicated. Nonetheless, I knew there was a lot of alcohol in his system and asked if he thought it was a good idea for him to drive. He got extremely defensive and said he was fine. We exited the bar and he took off in the opposite direction. When I got home, I texted him just to make sure he was okay because he had so much to drink. His response: I only date girls I sleep with on the first date. Dodged a bullet with that one. I went on a Tinder date a couple of months ago on a Sunday afternoon. Met up with the guy around 3, he had really good energy and was funny and complimentary. The place we wanted to go had a long line, so we went to another restaurant on the water for a drink and appetizers. He started slamming down Mai Tais. I had 1, he had 3. They were strong. Like, I was tipsy, borderline drunk off of 1. The bar had a 2 Mai Tai per person limit, but he found another bartender to get his 3rd. He got drunker and started telling me he loved me, joking at first but getting increasingly serious. As we left, he asked me to marry him. I kind of laughed it off and was like, maybe we take it slow, we just met each other. He got so mad he stormed off and left me on a street corner. Then as soon as he got home, it was 5 p.m., he started texting me, come over, and, I miss you. He was 43. After a movie date with a guy I met on Tinder, we came back to my place. We will call him Dude. I told him we could hang for a bit, but I had work in the morning so I would need to go to sleep soon. Dude said that was fine, but he was hungry and was going to order food. Okay, sure. Dude orders 2 large subs from Potbelly and a milkshake. Downs it. No judgment, he is 6 feet 4 inches, 210 pounds, younger, still growing, by all means. I did not think anything of it until later. We end up messing around a bit and fall asleep in bed. I wake up to my front door opening and closing several times over a 5-minute period. My dogs are going nuts, and it is 1 a.m. What the heck is this guy doing? I open the door to my room that opens up to the rest of my apartment, and my bathroom is to the left where the light is on and the door is wide open. I walk around the corner to make eye contact with Dude, who is in a squatting position over my toilet with a stick, poking around in murky brown poop water that is millimeters from overflowing onto my bathroom floor. Horrified, he yells, "Stop looking at me, go back to bed." I have it under control. I am still waking up trying to understand what I am seeing and what is going on, and I just start nervous laughing. I do not know what else to do. He yells, "Why do you not have a plunger?" And I said I do not know, I never needed one until now. He tells me to go back to bed, he has it under control. I am so disturbed, tired, cannot process what is happening and have work in the morning, so I go back to bed. I remember hearing him peek in my room a bit later and I fixed it, and then heard him leave and my door close behind him. The next morning, I hesitantly approach my toilet to find the water is down, but there is something poking out from the bottom of the toilet like he did not get it all. Upon further inspection, what I was seeing was the tip of a stick. Some gloves, towels, and barbecue tongs later, I pulled out approximately 3 feet of stick from my toilet that had broken off, followed by several other stick fragments. Dude had broken several sticks. I heard my door open and close so much because he was going outside to look for a stick. One would break, he would go get another. Dude had left drippy poop water stains all over my bathroom floor. He also left my apartment so fast that he left his underwear, undershirt, and socks. After work that day, I went straight to the store and bought a plunger. Lesson learned. This happened just after I decided to get into the dating scene after a traumatic end to a 3-year relationship. So it is 12:45 a.m. and a Tinder match messages me asking what I am doing, then invites me to go out with her. I think it is a bit late, but the clubs are open for 3 to 4 more hours, so why not? I should take opportunities, right? I am a single man in his 20s for the first time. She says she will pick me up, driving in toward the town from outside of it, and I put on cologne and a nice shirt, get ready to go out. I go to the car, my match is in the front passenger seat and her friend is driving. I think it is pretty weird, but having a friend along is not super off, so I get in and ask which club we are going to. We are not going out, just out, my match says as we drive off. Where are we going? I ask, feeling a little uncomfortable. Just into town, she replies. They drive to a nearby bridge with a car park under it and park, turn the radio up, and start chatting. The girl driving pulls out a 1-liter bottle of chocolate milk and starts drinking it. They talk about the most boring stuff, barely include me in the conversation, and start rolling cigarettes. After 15 minutes, they get out of the car to have a smoke. I get out too. My Tinder match is wearing fluffy white slippers that light up with each step. I turn and face them. I appreciate you guys picking me up, but this really is not my scene. I am going to head off. Have a nice night. They were very offended. A chick said she was having a work party at her house and I should come over. It was BYOB, so I bought a 6-pack for myself. Went to her place and noticed more than half of the people were younger, 17 to 18, while I was 21 and the girl was also 21. Then they gathered everyone in the living room and proceeded to talk about the job. Turns out it was one of those pyramid scheme recruiting gatherings. I just sat there drinking my beer, only one drinking, for 2 hours because I thought it was rude to leave since they were telling sob stories and saying how much this job had helped them. Sat there listening to some head of the group guy saying how we can make millions in a short amount of time. Saying bullshit like, you see my BMW 3 Series out front? That's a company car that you can drive around in, if you do what we do. It was sad because they were trapping low-income teens who were deciding not to go to college and to join them instead. After the pitch, I pretty much had enough and was preparing to leave. Then the girl came up to me and asked what I thought, and I just said it is not for me and I am leaving. She asked if I wanted to take my beer and I said they needed it more than I did. 2 or 3 weeks later, she sent me a text, unfortunately we exchanged numbers, asking if the head of the group guy could call me and ask me questions on why I was not signing up and how I thought the group session went. I did not reply, but sure enough, the dude called me and I politely said it is not for me, but he kept pushing. Finally, I had to tell him to fuck off. And that was the end of that. Never went to work parties for a Tinder date again. It was a complete shit show, and if it was not for the beer I brought or the Tinder date's dog, I would have just left. Looking back on it, during the pitch, the head of the group guy said at one point, if you're not interested in making $1 million, you can just leave, no one's stopping you. I really wish I stood up, chugged my beer, and said, fuck this shit, you guys are all stupid and no one should be joining, you will ruin your lives, and walked out. But that is just a daydream I have in the shower. I have one where I was probably the nightmare. I went on a first date with a girl from Tinder at a Cajun restaurant in Dallas. I had recently read about some stuff called kratom that is supposed to make you feel really relaxed and euphoric. I had tried to make a tea from the recommended dosage the previous day, but I did not feel anything from it. So I figured if this stuff was supposed to make you feel cool and euphoric, then the best time to take it would be for a first date. And since I did not feel anything from it the first time, I figured I should take more. So I wrapped a lot of it. Kratom is usually sold as a greenish, super bitter powder, up inside balls of deli meat and swallowed those whole before the date. I then went to the lunch feeling nothing, until I met the girl and sat down, at which point I suddenly came to the realization that I was a few seconds away from projectile vomiting up all that kratom and deli meat in the middle of the restaurant. I excused myself, got up from the table, walked a few steps toward the bathroom until I began to violently vomit. At that point, I covered my mouth with my hands, began choking on my own vomit as I sprinted toward the bathroom, leaked a trail of vomit all over the floor on the way, then continued to violently projectile vomit into the trash can in the bathroom. I then spent a while cleaning my face and washing my arms and hands, which were soaked in vomit. I then returned to the table and tried to survive the rest of the lunch date without dying of embarrassment. I felt like a huge asshole and was really embarrassed. I matched with a girl and sent a lot of messages. Later that night, we talked on the phone and the conversation was going really well, so I asked to go out the next night. She agreed, and then 5 minutes later she tells me that she needs to tell me something. She tells me that she is permanently in a wheelchair. So I am either an asshole if I back out now or an asshole if I lead her on. I figure, why not? It is just a date and it could still be a fun time. We talk more that night and go to bed. The next morning, she calls me early and tells me she is doing something crazy. She will not tell me what, but she says she will show me later. A few hours go by and she calls me back and tells me she is going to send me a picture of what she did. I check my messages and I see a picture of her wrist, with my name now tattooed on it. We end the call and I immediately tell my friends about this crazy girl. Later that night, I am driving to her place because I figure, she can be committed enough to tattoo my name on her, I should be committed enough to go on this date. Plus, I have to know if it is real. I am almost at her place and realize that my car may not accommodate her wheelchair, and I know she drives, so I ask if she can drive us. I am walking in the parking lot and she drives up and I get in the car. Now, I had figured she had a handicapped-enabled car. Nope. Turns out she just uses 2 crutches to drive, one on the gas and one on the brake. I do not like this, as we are driving on the Southern California freeways in traffic. We go eat and she gets a phone call from her daughter. Turns out she left her 10-year-old daughter at home alone and she is scared. I am like, hey, we can go, but she is like, no, it is okay, I gave her something to make her sleep, she will be asleep soon. So we finish up and I was going to take her to see a movie, but the kid thing was too much, so we head home and my fingers are already crossed that we make it, when she turns to me while driving and says, wow, I am kinda drunk. In my head I am like, 1 drink is all you had. But I ask if I can drive and she says no, she is going to get in the fast lane and uses her crutch to hit the gas. I say my last prayers, but we made it back to her place. So I wheeled her back to her door, said goodbye, and lived. Tattoo was real though. Chatted with this girl for about 2 weeks. Every conversation went well and eventually I got her number and she started sharing suggestive pics and speaking dirty. Late one evening after a stressful work day, she talks me into driving an hour to come get coffee with her. She spends the next hour and a half non-stop talking about her ex and how she has to see him at the bank and all this personal upset ex-girlfriend stuff. She cuts me off anytime I try to speak or changes the subject right back to him. A day later, I get a text about how I did not do any talking and I was too boring to be anything more than just friends with. She got irate when I pointed out she would not allow me to speak and only wanted to talk about her ex-boyfriend, when we had never once had a slow or boring conversation before meeting up. Matched with this cute girl a few years back. Went out for drinks. It was going well, so we decided to head out to the beach with a 6-pack to stargaze and make out. Somehow we ended up on a stolen sailboat at 2 a.m. with her ex, an old drunken boat repairman, who made copies of the keys to steal the boat, and her dog. After arguing with her ex for 30 minutes, she blacks out and falls asleep. Her dog is scared out of its mind and is shitting everywhere. Her ex starts tripping on acid and yells at me that I have to take care of her and never hurt her, then runs to the bow of the boat to finish his trip. The old drunken boat thief is just chilling and chugging vodka like it was water. I said fuck it, cleaned up after the dog, brought the poor pup inside the cabin with me, then passed out. Next morning I woke up to the girl and her ex screaming at each other about some car crash and whose fault it was. The old boat thief was gone, and I had no clue where I parked. I left without them noticing, got some coffee and breakfast, and wandered around the harbor until I found my car. Never talked with her again. We lived about 25 minutes from each other, so we agreed to meet at the beach pier about halfway between. Before meeting, we had been texting and he seemed totally normal. I was already at the pier when he texted me saying he could not meet me there because his license was revoked and it was too far for him to walk. I should have just left then, but I agreed to meet him at a pizza place closer to him. I get there, and I am standing outside when I see him and quickly realize the pics from his profile were at least 3 to 5 years old. Homeboy looked like the dollar store version of himself, greasy, looked like he had not showered in days, hair undone, holes in his shirt. I awkwardly give him a side hug and suggest we get a seat, and he says, "Oh, no, we are not getting pizza. Let's go to the park." I awkwardly say okay, and as he talks, I realize his gums and tongue ring are stained black from smoking. By this point, I am completely turned off and am just keeping up with formalities. So we get to the park and find a bench to talk, and before I can sit down, homie pulls me onto his lap, squeezing me and saying, "God, you are so fucking cute." I awkwardly scoot away and try to get a conversation going. He pulls out his phone and starts texting for a few minutes, not really listening to me, before interrupting with, "Have you smoked? My friend is a plug, we could go back to my place for a bowl." I decline. "Come on, my place is just right there. We could have some fun, too." I decline again. Next thing you know, he pulls me close by the face and whispers, "You're so innocent," before broad-tongued licking my face from chin to ear. Shell-shocked, I just sit there for a moment processing what the fuck just happened as he keeps talking about weed, before I decide to fake an urgent phone call and leave. Fresh off a breakup on campus, matched with this really good-looking girl who was talking pure filth. Obviously, I was just an idiot with a hurt heart, so I did not question much and headed over to her place a few days later. She insisted I come over on a certain day at a certain time. Normally I would have been sketched out, but it was the middle of the day on a Big Ten campus. What exactly could go that south? Half an hour in, her husband came home. I was being used in a revenge plot. No more Tinder. There was this guy I used to work with about 2 years ago who I had a big crush on. He walked out of the job 2 weeks after I got hired, but I would still see him sometimes because he would come in to get coupons from his sister. She also worked there and still does. About a year ago, I found him on Bumble and we matched. I shot my shot, and he took me out on a date a week later and we hooked up afterwards. He specifically told me not to tell his sister anything and ghosted me afterwards, hitting me up once in a while to hook up, but I would avoid him because I wanted something serious. Fast forward a month later, I met someone new who wanted to take things seriously, and I told the other guy that I was seeing someone else. He snapped, started calling me rude names, saying I was not special, etc., your typical self-proclaimed nice guy. For 8 months, he would come into my job to see if I was there and make accounts to message me. I would block every account of his, but he kept trying, and I was scared to tell his sister because sometimes people defend family no matter what. But I gave in, and she took my side, thankfully. Ended up telling their mom, and they both snapped at him from what I was told, and he has not bothered me ever since. We were supposed to meet at 9 p.m. He fell asleep and called me at 9:30 when I was already at the carnival. I told him not to bother coming as I did not want to see him. He asked for another chance, and I agreed. Unfortunately, my dad got really ill and had to spend the next 6 weeks in the hospital, with me visiting him daily. I had no time for dates, and he got extremely mad. He made a fake Instagram account which he used to follow me and everybody I followed. He then saw me in a friend's Instagram story and showed up to the restaurant we were at. He called me a whore and a liar, and we had to threaten to call the police because he would not leave. Not Tinder, but Match.com, and right in its infancy too, a long time ago when it was just weirdos doing online dating. I matched and met up with a girl. She was way hotter than me, like crazy hot, way out of my league. The date was going super well and we had even made out a bit. I could not believe my luck. We decided that, since it was going so well, we would keep it going and headed to a bar. We were getting cozy in a corner when a group of African lads came into the bar. I live in a very homogeneous white country, to the point that that would even be noteworthy, especially at that time. She got up from where we were sitting and began shouting abuse at the lads who came in, saying they did not belong here and dropping the N-word several times. I felt like that moment in a horror movie where the camera zooms in on your face and the background zooms out. I just got up and walked out. She tried to call me the next day to set up another date. I just ignored her. Clearly fucking nuts. Too good to be true in the truest sense. I went on a Tinder date several months ago around October, and it went really well. The girl had a job, was not crazy, and was cute, so we decided to have a second date. The only thing was that the second date was at her Thanksgiving party so she could introduce me to her friends and family, which I thought was a bit too early for. Anyway, I did not have anything planned that day, so I decided to go. My job was to make the jungle juice for the party, and it consisted of the usual Everclear, Hawaiian Punch, lemonade powder, and ice combo I had used throughout college. It worked wonders, and everyone got really drunk. Near the end of the party, my date and her friends told me I did an amazing job on the drink. My date also mentioned that she really liked the fruit I added in there and that everyone at the party was trying to get some. For some reason, that did not sit well with drunk me, so I headed over to the alcohol canister to investigate. I grabbed my trusty ladle and started scraping the bottom of the canisters, and on one of the ladles, I found some chunks of meat and pieces of ramen. That is when I realized that someone puked in the jungle juice. This is not actually my story, it is my mom's. After getting out of an incredibly long and unpleasant marriage, my mom joined Tinder. Stella wanted to get her groove back, and I was 100% on her team. I am an adult. I cannot emphasize enough, she was not looking for a long-term connection. Her work sent her out of state for a while, and everything seemed perfect. She was going to get her rando D, and there was no chance of it getting serious. She was sending me screenshots of the guys she was considering, I was giving her tips on safety. And then she picked a guy. I immediately told her that he was not a wise choice. This guy's profile was 98% red flags by volume. Whatever, she is an adult, I literally cannot stop her. Somehow, in the 4 hours they are physically together, he figures out which flight she is taking the next day. He uses that to find her final destination, and somehow even finds her home address. He uses public tax information to find her full name, and from there hunts down her Facebook, and finds my dad, calls him on the phone, and dishes everything, sends him pictures and screenshots of conversations. Then he starts sending my mom harassing messages that he loves her but that he cannot trust her. Ultimately, my mom had to call the police. Met at a Starbucks. She told me she was vegan and that she was cool with me not being vegan. I ordered a coffee with cream in it and she screamed at the top of her lungs, in the crowded Starbucks, that I am a cow murderer. I just paid for my stuff and left. Another time I met a girl from Tinder and we saw each other a few times. She had an ex that she still talked to, but said she had not had any feelings for in a few years. So I go to her apartment, and this place is like a shrine to him. Pictures of him on every wall. And it was not just from when they were together and she never took them down. She had just moved to this place a month prior, so she recently decorated her apartment with his face. Really creeped me out and felt like I was going to be some sort of sacrifice to get him back. Met a girl I was convinced I could marry. We went for a walk on a trail nearby, had a great time talking. We planned to go to the beach but it started raining and my mom lived nearby. She said it would be cool to meet her, and despite me offering other options, she said she wanted to go there. It surprisingly was not awkward at all, my mom really liked her. We all had dinner together and had a great time. She said she had to go to the bathroom and my mom needed something from upstairs. As she came out, I was on the landing heading back down, and she grabbed my hand and kissed me. The next time we met up, we got intimate at my place. I had to go away for work for a month or so. She said she was totally okay with it, understood it was my job, and that I loved traveling. When I got back, everything was great. After a month, we went on holiday together. The holiday was perfect, I was in love with this girl. We both had an amazing time. The train from the airport passed through her town first, so we made out, hugged, said bye, and that was the last time I saw her. I do not understand what happened. Everything was perfect. I texted her, and she said she needed space. No problem, I had to go away again. When I got back, I asked if she wanted to get lunch or something. She said she was over it and had moved on. We were dating for a total of like 6 months. I do not understand what I did wrong, and I still think about her every day. Horrific.